dream is dead. But if I get elected president, I will bring it back bigger and better and stronger than ever before, and we will make America great again. Thank you. Thank you very much.
2016, year of the snake. Time for a change in the White House, y'all. Liberty. Bring it.
How's it going, Audra?
If you want to real big, then you gotta get a real leader. Want a real leader, then you need a real man. Build a wall, deal with all them terrorists. America needs a man that can. If you wanna feel safe in your own backyard, you gotta play Trump. I say Trump, you say hell,
How's it going, Eric? How's it going, John, Janine, Bobby? How's it going? Bobby. Sad. Let's show Bobby's sad comment. Bobby, you're sad. You do something better with your life than troll random videos on the internet. Hello, everyone. The time's up. There we go. Just wanted to show you all, Bobby. Oh, that's awesome. I'm being broadcast on the Jumbotron at the VFW. I hope so. And if that's the case, I want to just thank all my veterans for your service to our great country. Appreciate you so much. In fact, we're going to talk about some interesting developments, laws that have been signed into law by our president, President Trump, that actually support our veterans in a variety of ways. So, happy to that. How's Kevin? Carl, good to see you. Oh, yeah, it's been fun. Yes, Patricia, John, how's it going? Angels, how's it going? There's my Munkin. Chuck, how's it going? Carissa, Tammy, excellent, good to see you. Awesome, little good, awesome. So then we just do our little lead in here, let people get into the show, listening to Laser Snake, Make America Great Again, our favorite track, and great way to start the show. Give people a chance to share, click share. You know how much we are shadow banned on this show. Zuckerberg, the deep state, the globalists, Google, Twitter, YouTube, all those folks, they don't like people like me, supporters of our president. So we tell you the truth. That's the case. That's the case. So yes. Want to, of course, also mention my good friend at the Trump Towel. Love my patrons at the Trump Towel. You can get your Trump Towel, rally towels. Everybody needs it. How's it going, Sherry? It's a great. I use mine for everything. Wiping liberal tears. Oh, so many things you can use it for. Oh, Cindy, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Definitely. Thank you, Liz Snake, and welcome to the show, everybody. You are watching the one and only Trump Talk US live in DC with Suzzanne Monk. I am Suzzanne Monk. We are about 8 minutes away from our nation's beautiful Capitol building just across the way. We're about 13 minutes away from the president's White House. We have Chris McDonald representing us here on Facebook. Yeah, Facebox, face lame, as we all know. So many struggles I'm going to continue to have. We're going to talk a little bit about some social media issues to plan ahead for going through in 2020. So let's update everybody first and foremost. Chris McDonald is sharing some great links here in the chat room in the comments. If you're on Facebook, you can see all of those. For example, the link to the Trump Towel. So you can get your own Trump Towel. Fantastic. Thank you, Chris. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on with Iran. We got a chance. The president spoke on the issue. I want to see if it's possible to pull in. Let's see if I can add. I want to be able to see if I can add a page. Will it allow me to add a page? Not sure. No. Yes, maybe it'll let me do this. Here we go. Let's see if I can share this. Okay, so we're going to click play on this, and we're going to just skip ahead. No, we don't care. Here we go.
As long as I'm president of the United States, Iran will never be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. Good morning. I'm pleased to inform you the American people should be extremely grateful and happy. No Americans were harmed in last night's attack by the Iranian regime. We suffered no casualties. All of our soldiers are safe.
Yep.
And only minimal damage was sustained at our military bases. Our great American forces are prepared for anything. Iran appears to be standing down,
Yep.
which is a good thing for all parties concerned and a very good thing for the world. No American or Iraqi lives will.
So let's pause there for a second. We're going to pop in here and we can pull that back up. I want to let the president continue, but I want to pause right there and discuss a little bit about what the president meant about de-escalation. Iran de-escalating. One of the interesting things we are seeing in the media right now, in the mainstream media, is a real attempt to try to continue these heightened tensions, this idea that we have heightened tensions going on. But in reality, what's actually happening is Iran is doing everything they can to avoid conflict, as we're going to discuss in just a little bit. But I wanted to point out that sentence because there's a lot of mainstream media that is rejecting that idea, unfortunately, falsely and inaccurately.
Were lost.
So we'll pull
because
that back
of
up
the
here.
precautions taken, the dispersal of forces, and an early warning system that worked very well. I salute the incredible skill and courage of America's men and women in uniform. For far too long, all the way back to 1979 to be exact, nations have tolerated Iran's destructive and destabilizing behavior in the Middle East and beyond. Those days are over. Iran has been the leading sponsor of terrorism and their pursuit of nuclear weapons.
Did you hear the president? Let's just pop in on that. Did you hear the president literally claim, state for the world, the days of our relationship with Iran as per 1960s, 1978, 1979, with the Iran hostage situation, with the rise of the Ayatollah, the takeover of Iran from the Shah, from the previous government, the Iranian Revolution, as it is sometimes called. That is where President Trump is drawing the bar in the sand. That is what we're no longer going to have.
Threatens the civilized world. We will never let that happen. Last week, we took decisive action to stop a ruthless terrorist from threatening American lives. At my direction, the United States military eliminated the world's top terrorist, Qasem Soleimani. As the head of the Quds Force, Soleimani was personally responsible for some of the absolutely worst atrocities. He trained terrorist armies, including Hezbollah, launching terrorist strikes against civilian targets. He fueled bloody civil wars all across the region. He viciously wounded and murdered thousands of U.S. troops, including the planting of roadside bombs that maim and dismember their victims. Soleimani directed the recent attacks on U.S. personnel in Iraq that badly wounded 4 service members and killed 1 American, and he orchestrated the violent assault on the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. In recent days, he was planning new attacks on American targets.
Planning new attacks.
But we stopped him. Soleimani's hands were drenched in both American and Iranian blood.
That's right.
He should have been terminated long ago. By removing Soleimani, we have sent a powerful message to terrorists. If you value your own life, you will not threaten the lives of our people. As we continue to evaluate options in response to Iranian aggression, the United States will immediately impose additional punishing economic sanctions on the Iranian regime.
That's right.
These powerful sanctions will remain.
Now, I said that just on Monday, we talked about the U.S. applying additional economic sanctions, how much the economic sanctions up to this point are already having such a strong impact. And here we have the president speaking exactly what I told you he was going to do. Just point that out.
Until Iran changes its behavior. In recent months alone, Iran has seized ships in international waters.
Yes.
Fired an unprovoked strike on Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
And shot down 2 U.S. drones.
Mm-hmm.
Iran's hostilities substantially increased after the foolish Iran nuclear deal was signed in 2013. And they were given $150 billion, not to mention $1.8 billion in cash.
Yeah.
Instead of saying thank you to the United States, they chanted death to America.
Listen to this part.
In fact, they chanted death to America the day the agreement was signed. Then Iran went on a terror spree, funded by the money from the deal, and created hell in Yemen, Syria, Lebanon, Afghanistan, and Iraq.
That is what is so important, and it's what I wanted to play the speech for. The president will go on. We'll listen to the rest of that in just a minute, but I wanted to play that clip of the speech and give you a chance to hear the president not only calling out our relationship with Iran all the way back to 1978, basically calling out the Iranian radical Islamic regime that took over in 1978, calling out the previous administration for the bad deal, for the money given, directly connecting the money given to the Iranian regime with the terror they spent that money on. And I think that's something that's so important that the president has openly stated, has been very clear. He didn't pull any punches. He didn't mince around the words. He was very clear. The deal was ridiculous. They chanted death to America the day before the deal. They chanted death to America the day they signed the deal. Iran has never cooperated. They have never come to the table fully with the deal. Every single negotiation we have made with Iran up until now has been a manipulation. Now let's listen to the rest of what the president has to say, and then we want to talk a little bit about what happened after our strike on Soleimani.
The missiles fired last night at us and our allies were paid for with the funds made available by the last administration. The regime also greatly tightened the reins on their own country, even recently killing 1,500 people at the many protests that are taking place all throughout Iran. The very defective JCPOA expires shortly anyway and gives Iran a clear and quick path to nuclear breakout. Iran must abandon its nuclear ambitions and end its support for terrorism. The time has come for the United Kingdom, Germany, France, Russia, and China to recognize this reality. They must now break away from the remnants of the Iran deal, or JCPOA. And we must all work together toward making a deal with Iran that makes the world a safer and more peaceful place. We must also make a deal that allows Iran to thrive and prosper and take advantage of its enormous untapped potential. Iran can be a great country. Peace and stability cannot prevail in the Middle East as long as Iran continues to foment violence, unrest, hatred, and war. The civilized world must send a clear and unified message to the Iranian regime. Your campaign of terror, murder, mayhem will not be tolerated any longer. It will not be allowed to go forward. Today, I am going to ask NATO to become much more involved in the Middle East process. Over the last 3 years, under my leadership, our economy is stronger than ever before, and America has achieved energy independence. These historic accomplishments change our strategic priorities. These are accomplishments that nobody thought were possible.
That's right.
And options in the Middle East became available. We are now the #1 producer of oil and natural gas anywhere in the world.
This is important.
We are independent.
Independent.
And we do not need Middle East oil.
We do not need Middle East
The
oil.
American military has been completely rebuilt under my administration at a cost of $2.5 trillion.
You see, this is such a great speech. And President Trump goes on, it's only a little bit more, but President Trump goes on to talk about we are willing to negotiate peace with anyone who is willing to go forward in peace. He called out our strengths. He talked about our military buildup, that we've repaired our military. We've done the infrastructure spending. We've re-equipped our military so that they're capable of fighting. Remember when President Trump took office, we were actually very concerned that it would even be possible for us to fight any kind of conflict with a nation like Iran because we were stretched so thin from the previous administration. And what we've seen now under President Trump, not only have we pulled troops back, not only are our troops deployed much more reasonably, rationally, and strategically, but we are also seeing our troops being funded and properly equipped, once again, making us one of the strongest militaries in the world. Letting Iran know that, I think, is key. But I think also key, letting talking directly to the Iranian people, talking about how much we stand with the Iranian people and how much we want for them to have prosperity. It has a lot of remnants. It has a lot of remnants of how President Trump began the negotiations with North Korea, basically kind of making open statements to the leadership of North Korea and to the people of North Korea, talking about the potential prosperity, talking about the potential for the people to have a better future. And that's what I think President Trump mentioned right there in his speech. Now, here's what's so key to understand. What we are actually seeing out of Iran has been a de-escalation. The president is 100% accurate in talking about that. We are seeing reports come out of the Middle East right now. First off, that the targets that Iran hit, they deliberately missed. In other words, they targeted areas near bases, but did not actually hit the bases, as if sending a clear message to the United States. We've sent these missiles out. You know, we have to appear strong, but we didn't. They deliberately avoided anywhere where U.S. military personnel were. They deliberately avoided. Go in and go back out of its buffering. They deliberately avoided. How's it going, Tim? Attacking any targets that would antagonize the United States and would cause us to need to retaliate further. They have said that the retaliation phase is over, that there'll be future conflict, but that their need to retaliate for the death of Soleimani has been satiated. That is the word coming out of Iran right now. So, in fact, that's exactly what happened. When the president is talking about the de-escalation, he is very accurate and very clear that, in fact, Iran has done everything within their power to be able to show their good face, You can't just let America walk all over you, or your little minions don't take you seriously anymore. But certainly what we are not seeing from Iran is a further escalation. And in fact, we're seeing from Iran a deliberate and measured response that is designed to appease both the United States and their hardliners there in the country of Iran. That's what's so interesting. That's what you have to pay attention to. That's what the mainstream media is not reporting to you about, because it is so important to them that they keep up this false idea that President Trump is somehow dragging us into war, that he is an irresponsible, inexperienced foreign policy leader. Their whole hope was to lure President Trump into a conflict. Now, this is what's so sad about the left, is that they're willing to put American soldiers at risk. They're willing to put Iranian lives at risk. They're willing to put Iraqi lives at risk. They're willing to let people die if it gives them a talking point against Donald Trump. Let's just reiterate what I have said right there, because I think that is such a tragic and yet honest depiction of what the Democrats are willing to do right now. The treason, the traitorous sentiment of the Democrats becomes quite obvious when, in fact, what you see is the Democrats willing and excited, in fact, praying for attacks on American citizens, on American soil. We've seen the memes, we've seen the jokes here. Trump is at Mar-a-Lago. Please bomb where Trump is at. The pleas to the Iranian government to not kill us all, as if the Iranian government can barely fill up their own gas tanks anymore, let alone have any impact on the lives of Americans here. Not to mention, and we're gonna, Janine, I'm glad you brought it up. Very interesting dilemma. Now, we see also going on in Iran and the plane crash. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Plane crash, 737 in Iran after shortly leaving Tehran airport. Ukrainian-bound plane. Many Ukrainians, Canadians, no Americans. It's interesting that a Ukrainian-bound plane would be leaving Tehran while Tehran is actually, rattling their sabers, claiming that they have put on missile defense. They might shoot down anything that flies over airspace. So it's very interesting. Iran is refusing and has stated they will not deliver the black box to Boeing. As we know, Boeing has had some problems with the 737 model, the Supermax model that they added to the 737 line. They've been having some problems with that. They have been grounded. The president issued that order as well, participated in making sure that here in the United States that the FAA grounded those planes because they had 2 crashes within a 5-month period. So that crash of the 737, that black box could actually be very relevant information to Boeing. It's interesting that Iran will not continue to participate, they claim, because Boeing is an American company. But in reality, because Boeing does sell planes everywhere to airlines everywhere, and because those planes do fly everywhere, this is a safety risk to everyone. To everyone. And certainly, John, I got to agree. John McBroom, he says, crash sounds like it was shot down. Let's click over here. Let's show everybody. John, the fact that they will not give up the black box, the fact that they are certainly downplaying any attempts at investigation by the international community certainly leaves us very, very suspicious. Very, very suspicious. And we're going to continue to be suspicious. Zone Girl says, I'm nervous to fly again. I can understand. Certainly, now that we see a pattern of crashes with the 737 Supermax model and this additional 737, we start to wonder, you know, you have to check your flight. What kind of plane am I flying on? Now we're checking what kind of plane. It certainly makes people a little nervous. But that's why I think it's unfortunate that Iran is not willing to present the black box, because it would certainly put some mind at ease if it was a specific specific problem to this specific plane. If there was some other, you know, maybe it was shot down, maybe it was a terrorist attack, whatever other factor it could have been, having that information certainly helps to calm people down, like Zone Girl, like other people who are concerned for flying when they see these crashes. So hopefully Iran will stop being petty and they're going to actually turn over the black boxes, or at least do that secretly. Note what Iran says on the surface and what Iran does. What Iran says and what Iran does. Iran says we're going to crush America. They actually avoid actually hitting any Americans because they don't want to piss us off any more than they already have. This is how Iran has been throughout the process. It's going to be very interesting going forward. You saw the president call for China, for Russia, for Europe, for NATO, for other nations to join together with us in resisting the Iranian terrorist regime, no longer giving credibility. And it's of note to say China will not be flying planes over the Iranian airspace at this point. There is a lot of stuff going on. Now, Tim, you're absolutely right. Flying is extremely safe, especially compared to being on your average roads. It's certainly something that, for the most part, you know, we see very few crashes, which is what makes it concerning that we see a specific model of plane again and again in the headlines for crashes. And that's why the black box is actually such an important fact. It's because we need to see what's going on with those planes. So I'm excited to see how the deal goes forward. If you notice, the president in his speech did talk about making a new deal with Iran, the willingness to negotiate with Iran. None of this is World War III, people. None of this is what we're seeing from the mainstream media, an irresponsible, radical yelling at Iran. We're not doing that in any way. How's it going, Joanne? Good to see you. We're not doing that in any way. Obviously, what the president has openly stated is we are interested in working with Iran. We are interested in working with a peaceful Iran. We are interested in working with anyone who is willing to move towards peace and to embrace peace. And certainly we would like a new deal, but that deal must prevent Iran from ever obtaining a nuclear weapon. As Marilyn says, I'm going to put this up, Marilyn, Trump is not a warmonger. In fact, he is the opposite of a warmonger. And that is what is making the deep state so upset. They want Trump to get into a war. They don't want Trump continuing to operate his sensible, logical, respectful of our military forces, certainly using them in the most limited way possible, only when necessary. They don't want that kind of foreign policy into the United States. Over the last two presidencies, in fact, we could say Clinton and Bush, even before then, we have had an ongoing policy to utilize chronic, constant war and military action to manipulate geopolitics throughout the world. And this is something that we've gotten a very bad rap for. In fact, a lot of my patriot friends, you know, you're going to be seeing this. I'm sure some of you are seeing this in your own news feed as we're talking about Iran and Israel. Your friends, your let's not fight Israel's war people, all in your news feed, aren't they? All of your friends who get very nervous about Israel, I'm not anything from, you know, full on anti-Semitism. Some of them are pretty much, they just hate Jews. They're very mad about it. But then that timeline, that range goes just some genuine mistrust of the nation of Israel and their intentions and our intentions in being intimately involved with them, or any nation for that matter. So, much more of an isolation position. You go from anti-Semitic to isolationist, but you're seeing these friends, you're seeing these people on your news feed actually talking about, because we're talking about Iran, talking about Israel, etc. Yeah, I love that. That's interesting. I've been saving most of saving your champagne for a day like this. That's fantastic. Yes, desperate attempt to use the poor Iran to, yes, desperate deep state actually using the poor in Iran. Let me put this up. Actually using the poor in Iran to push for war. 100%. 100%. That's what we see happening. I'm still getting used to clicking the comments. Sometimes I try to click off and it clicks the next comment. So please be patient with what we're seeing. So it's very interesting. We're going to see going forward how this relationship continues to build in Iran. I think it's great for the Israeli people that Iran is de-escalating. Certainly, I think we're going to see a closer relationship with Israel because of the threat of Iran. It's so important. Israel is our one true ally there that will jump on the ball and immediately join us. Now, we've also heard some rumors out of France. As we know, France is also beginning armed drone strikes against terrorists. So we're seeing mixed messages out of everyone except for our allies in Israel. I'm really proud of that relationship. We're going to continue to see Israel stand strong with us on this issue. Oh, Chris, that's awesome. You're super sweet. So let's talk about, I want to talk about a few things that went on as far as laws being passed, orders the president has signed, and then we're going to talk about the price transparency issue I think I'd have to click on it. Let me see if I can see. That's not going to show the picture. That's going to show the link. So I don't think I can click on the link, Chris. I'd have to pull up the picture on the other screen in order to show it. But I'll work on it. I'll work on these little bugs. So President Trump has done a few really great things. One, military bases, military police, Marine military police officials are now being allowed to carry firearms on all military bases. The order has been issued down from the president. It has been issued throughout the military services. Not every soldier able to carry a firearm, a side piece, but military, law enforcement, police, security forces now able to do that. Now, this is the craziness we actually had to come back from. We were living in a world where military police were being forbidden from carrying a firearm on base. Law enforcement on our military bases were not being allowed to carry firearms in order to enforce the law. We've seen several shootings on military bases, even in fact in recent times. Because of this, we made our military bases a soft target by this ridiculous law, this ridiculous policy that keeps nobody safe and doesn't even make any sense. How can you have law enforcement that isn't able to enforce the law, especially on a military base? But that is what we had. That is how we got the Nadal Hassan shooting many, many years ago, and that has not been changed until recently, which President Trump has signed that into effect, making sure that our men and women who are serving our military on base in training are able to be kept safe by the military police. Oh, that's awesome. Tracy, I'm glad you're here. That's glad to hear. Yes, John, I'm gonna put John's comment up because this is entirely true. John says military police done on purpose with one purpose. That is correct, John. The removing of firearms from our military police and military bases was done for one reason and one reason only, and that is to make soft terrorist targets of our military facilities, which is humiliating on the world stage. Watching this fight, this saber rattle battle we've done with Iran has really brought out an important fact of war. And that is, there is a level of posturing. There is a level of demonstrating strength. There is a level of symbolism. The symbolism of moving, of attacking, committing terrorist attacks, Islamic terrorist attacks on a U.S. military base. That psychology was such a loss again and again for the United States. Every time that happened, it was a humiliating and embarrassment, and basically depicting the United States as horribly weak and easily infiltrated. Are we that weak? Are we that easily infiltrated? No, in no way. But we had a government in place. We had individuals in place who had such ill respect for our men and women in uniform, who had such respect for radical Islam and had worked so hard to actually oppose the safety and interests of the United States people. That's what we had. We now have a president who is working to restore that. And all it took is a simple common sense policy. Let's make sure that our military police on our military bases can have a gun to shoot if someone attacks us on the military base. Basic stuff. We've been living in a very interesting world. We live in a time where we just got off of a presidency that took guns out of our hands of our soldiers, handed billions of dollars over to terrorists that are now using that money to fund terrorist attacks against us, undermine military interests across engaged military, put our military in harm's way, but then clipped their wings. Obama literally continued to send troops into theater, but refused to allow them to defend themselves or issue attacks that would actually defeat the enemy. Again and again, this is what we have been recovering from. And as John said, John McBroom said earlier in his comments, the swamp is it's a very deep swamp. Deep swamp. We had a lot of work to fix because obviously the damage was so deep. So I'm excited to hear about that. I'm also excited to hear about the president signing into law. It is a military memorial law where there are certain statues or symbols. For example, the positioning of the upside down rifle with the helmet and the boots is a specific symbol of a lost soldier or a fallen soldier. It's called a fallen soldier statue or display, a fallen soldier display. These displays were being forbidden by states like Virginia because, as we know, Virginia has some real problems being taken over by radical leftist ideologies, and certainly, oddly, a very anti-military stance, which, considering that Arlington National Cemetery, there's so many military personnel there, there's been a long history and tradition of respecting and honoring our military personnel out of Virginia. To see that the state of Virginia would actually work against this time-honored fallen soldier display, ridiculous. President Trump has rectified that. It is now the federal law of the land that all federal cemeteries, all U.S. military facilities must allow the fallen soldier display. So we see the president fixing dumb little things, fixing big things. And one of the things, and we're going to talk about this now, and I'm excited about this, is in fact one of the things I'm looking most forward to, price transparency, hospital price transparency. It is an executive order enforced through Health and Human Services, HHS, enforced through the Surgeon General. It will be going into effect in 2021. Let's talk a little bit about what this means. Under our current system, hospitals have not been, prior to President Trump, hospitals were not required to reveal any of their prices whatsoever. They did not have to tell you how much it would cost to get your appendix out. They did not have to tell you what price they had negotiated with the insurance company to pay for appendixes. They did not have to tell you anything. And because of that, we have developed a 3-tier system of medical pricing where people who do not have medical insurance, cash buyers, if you will, they pay one price. Insured individuals, people who have insurance, they're paying a completely different price. And then, of course, Medicare and Medicaid, people who are getting government insurance, they are paying yet another price altogether. And when you start to get into the insurance pricing, there's a huge confusion because hospitals, of course, are negotiating deals with those insurance companies, a bulk deal. For example, say Blue Cross and Blue Shield, talks with your hospital works out a deal. Say, look, we want to pay. We'll work out a bulk deal. The insurance company says, all right, so if 20, you guys do what? 20 appendicitis, appendectomies. That's the word I'm looking for. In a year, you do 20. How about instead of it usually costs what, 10 grand for each of those? I'm making up numbers to give you an idea. How about you charge us only 7 grand a piece for those? So the hospitals have been negotiating prices with the insurance companies. Now, some of those prices, they negotiate the prices, but the insurance company still gets overbilled because we're billing insured patients for procedures. In fact, we have seen this. They actually bill insured patients for procedures that happen to other patients because those patients don't have insurance, or the Medicare, the insurance that they have is not covering that procedure that's desperately needed. So we have that manipulation as well. It's become a quagmire. Now, the president has been working on price transparency for a little while. Yeah, long time. It goes really deep. 30 years of corruption, even more. 100% Tammy. Audra, yes, longer, even longer. It's been going on for quite some time. Now, in the working towards price transparency, hospitals have now been putting up a rate, not the rate they charge, the individual, but the high-end rate that they would charge for that service. And they've been using this number to bring the prices up, to basically negotiate with the insurance company. So hospitals have said, well, this is the cost. They try to put up costs, general costs, always very high, always a very high number, because their goal in putting up that cost of a heart surgery or a appendectomy or whatever surgery, whatever procedure that they're trying, their goal in putting up that high cost is that then they go back to the insurance company and they go, man, you guys, this is what it costs us, dudes. This is what it costs us. We can't give you we can't charge you only 7 grand for an appendectomy. We need 8. And this is what they're using this as a negotiation. Now, what the price transparency executive order will require hospitals to do, and this is the game changer, not just putting their high price that they can then use to manipulate and continue to develop contract pricing, as Tim calls it, contract pricing with the insurance company. The hospital is going to have to put up the price that they negotiate with the insurance company. That's right. So that great deal they get from the insurance company, they're going to have to publish it. Yeah, Tim, it is crazy when you can negotiate a better cash price than the contract price. And this is going to increase that and improve that even more. It is going to lower the prices of medical care across the board. Why? How is it going to lower the price of all medical care, Suzzanne? That seems like a unicorn you're talking about. It's a beautiful dream, but how is that going to happen? It's called math. It's called market pricing. Here is how that happens. By only releasing the high price, the hospitals have set that market price. Okay, here, Now, they negotiate a better deal with the insurance companies. They can negotiate even a better deal with cash patients. Many cash patients actually end up paying. That's why it's so funny when they say cash patients are costing more money than anybody. Actually, they negotiate some pretty good deals with cash patients because they know you don't have the money. So, but the lowest price could be the insurance price. The lowest price could be the cash price. The lowest price often is actually what the federal government has been paying, because for many, many years, for decades now, federal government, Medicare, Medicaid has only been paying a portion of what the doctors require. So we've had this whole messy quagmire. Now they have to release the price, their high price, but they also now have to release, they're going to have to release the price that the insurance company pays. One, this is going to change negotiations between them and every insurance company. Right? Now, they're not going to be able to get one price from Blue Cross and Blue Shield and get a better price from, Aetna. The differences between those insurance companies' pricing is going to go away because the price will be revealed. The price Aetna has negotiated has been revealed. If they are like, well, how about 6? We'll take 6 for an ambulance. And the hospital agrees to that. Blue Cross and Blue Shield is like, you're telling us 8 and you gave Aetna 6? Are you kidding me? Changes the whole game of the negotiation with the insurance companies and the hospitals themselves directly. It also changes the game with the cash buyer. We are now going to start to be able to see with the cash buyer, with the government insurance, we are going to be able to see the actual cost. We're going to be able to start to determine a market cost for each and every medical procedure, including lab work, the other anesthesia. The executive order, the price transparency regulation that is being put in place requires hospitals to not only include their basic procedures, because they were doing that, but they were using that to, there's all these little add-on costs they weren't including. It was not becoming a tool that the average consumer of medical care was able to use. The initial price transparency regulation. So it's certainly, they've advanced it and enhanced it, and we're going to see some very interesting things. So not only will this bring down the prices between with the insurance companies themselves, being able to see that direct negotiation, but we, the American consumer, are going to get to see what is the lowest price hospitals will pay, will accept, will take, not pay, will receive, will accept for a medical procedure. And it's going to make it much, much easier for us to come in and negotiate as well. You are literally going to see individuals be able to come in and negotiate their own procedures cost based on that price transparency information that is going to be required to be on the internet. Now, they are fighting tooth and nail. I know, Tim, it's going to, as I said in an earlier post, it is such a game changer. Here, I'm going to pull Tim's comment up. He says, what a blessing. We can actually pay for our medical care the same way we buy every other item in our life. That is the biggest goal. The one way we are going to actually reduce costs, actually remove this corporate insurance company model of healthcare where they don't care about your health needs, but they do care about their bottom line. The only way to fix that, doctors want to give you care, patients want to receive care, but the cost became so exorbitant, and that we created a middleman, the insurance companies, intending to bring down costs. Of course, insurance was initiated for the idea of bringing down costs for catastrophic care, surgeries, heart disease, accidents, surgeries that are involved with, any kind of injury. I try to combine injury and accident at the same time. Sometimes words make up themselves, people. That's what happens in real life. Sometimes words make up themselves. That is what insurance was intended for in the initial creation of insurance. It was intended to be a safety net to protect people from exorbitant bills. It was not intended to cover your every single doctor visit. It wasn't intended to cover your flu shots. It wasn't intended to cover your antibiotics because you had an infection. It wasn't intended to cover all of that. It was intended to cover only those emergencies. But what happened is once we let the insurance companies get in the way, the price of medical care became more and more complicated, less and less transparent, and went up, 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 up. The more opaque, the less transparent the prices of medical care were, the more the doctor and the patient were separated from each other. So now we have insurance companies making medical decisions. And we saw the Democrats with Obamacare try to push us fully into that. Remove any of that last vestiges of patient-doctor privilege that was so much a part of the real job of a doctor. You know, we used to have medical professionals who went into the medical profession because they cared about individuals. They wanted people to be healthy. They want to help people live stronger, healthier, better lives. Maybe they wanted to deliver babies. Maybe they wanted to take care of little kids. They got into the job to take care of people. The money has been such a huge problem, not because, as the socialists and the communists will tell you, there's just not enough money and we just have to pay for it. We have to pay for all the medical care. Actually, the more we've moved to that model of socialized medicine, the less care we've gotten, the more distant we've become from our doctor, the less control our doctor has. We don't have home visits anymore. We're losing general practitioners as a whole because of the specialization needs. Because once I have an insurer in the mix, in as a middleman, and we haven't changed our lawsuit reform, we have not engaged in tort reform, malpractice suit reform. Now I have a situation where actually I have to do all these extraneous tests. I have to engage in all of this expensive, unnecessary care, even as the doctor, just to cover my backside because of the possibility of being sued out of business. So we still have work to do in this medical crisis. You know, the prices are going to come down. Price transparency is going to be such a huge factor. I'm very excited about what price transparency is going to be able to do. That being said, the next big battle, tort reform. We need to bring down the cost of malpractice insurance, and the only way to do that is to start capping the amount of money that people can get through pain and suffering, and certainly to have some limits, some controls. Loser pays is a great feature for any tort reform, any malpractice lawsuit reform. Loser pays. There's a lot of things that can be done. Watch for that. Watch for that as the next and ongoing front. And of course, we see people still coming in. Fred, good to see you. We're getting used to this new platform. We're going to be doing this Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be here live on Facebook, on my Facebook page, on the Trump Talk US page. We are live on Periscope. We are also broadcasting live on YouTube. I'm building up all of those 3 platforms. Suzzanne, why are you working on multiple platforms? Why is this important? Why are you actually investing a monthly fee to be able to use this software, to be able to do that? Because going forward, we are going to see continued and ongoing suppression on social media of patriots delivering real news. Even my good friend, Dr. Jane Ruby, has about 2 days left of her Twitter ban, just did a great interview with Alan Dershowitz talking about the Me Too accusation culture, how difficult it's become to defend yourself against false sexual allegations in today's modern Me Too, Brett Kavanaugh witch hunt culture. Great interview with Alan Dershowitz. She can't broadcast it on her platform because of that. And so, yes, and Chris McDonald, our monkin in the room, very, very keen to point out, and I appreciate, that's why he says, that's why I need patrons and Patreon supporters. Yes, please, if you can, support the show. Chris has the link here in the comments on Facebook. And let's pull this up right here. Patreon. You can also just go to patreon.com and search Trump Talk US. Look up Trump Talk US. Support the show to cover these little costs, like software, which allows me to broadcast to multiple sources. That is going to be a critical factor in 2020. Keeping our social media active, keeping our voice out there is going to be so key. And I'm going to close on this. Why do I say that? Even Facebook itself knows how important our voice. An internal memo from one of the Facebook executives was released and leaked to the media. That internal memo suggested that, yes, in fact, Facebook was instrumental in electing Donald Trump, not because of the Cambridge analytical situation, not because of any of the false information, the stolen data and all of that, but in fact, because Facebook has continued to be a source that has allowed us to communicate with one another and to share information that is further radicalized and invigorated the Trump voter. So Facebook knows that we're using them to win elections. They know that Donald Trump, and this is the point the internal memo made, Donald Trump used social media better than any presidential candidate in our lifetime. He will continue to do that. But what they mean when they say that is that you and I were able to use social media so effectively that it frightens them, and they're trying to figure out something to do. And they're going to figure out, they'll shut it all down if they have to. So this is why it's so important. No problem, John. This is why it is so important to continue to be able to broadcast on multiple platforms, share throughout different social media. And so I appreciate my sponsors so much. In fact, my patrons were able to put together, this is how I have the service now, is you guys supporting the show. So I appreciate it. That is our show for today. We will be back on Friday. I'm working on some really exciting things going forward. The new website coming up. All the Democrats are nuts. TheDemocratsAreNuts.com. We're going to be launching this website, President Nutcracker's own website, media website, news, real news, but of course with a satirical and humorous take of President Nutcracker and his staff of Nutcracker writers. Oh, it's going to be fun, you guys. We're going to have so much time, so much good times going forward. We'll be back again Friday. I'm going to talk a little bit about March for Life coming up on the Second Amendment rallies down in Richmond on the 20th. We got a lot going on here in Virginia. So I will, in fact, keep you informed. I appreciate so much Chris McDonald, our Munkin, right here in the room. I appreciate all of my viewers, YouTube, Periscope, Facebook. I appreciate all you guys. And until next time, let's give a little bit of this.
The American dream is dead. But if I get elected,
it's like almost 3/4 of the way back now.
I will bring it back.
We're going to need 5 more years to seal the deal.
Bigger and better and stronger than ever before. And we will make America great again. Thank you. Thank you very much.
2016.
Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you again on Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please let your friends know about the show. Share the new, share it on Periscope, share it on YouTube. We're still getting viewers on those sites, and certainly let everybody know that we are back on Facebook on a regular basis every single Wednesday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to have some great stuff happening on Tuesdays and Thursdays as well. And next time, we love you guys. As always, it's your girl, Suzzanne Monk.